morning or good afternoon, depending on where in the world you're watching from. This is Brenda Meller, and this is my LinkedIn Live show. I call it Social Media Pie because I bring on inspiring people to inform and educate you. And today I've got somebody from over the pond, so to speak, Sarah Burgess. Hey, Sarah, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm just getting my day started here in the States. It's a little after 9 my time, and I think it's a little after 1 in the afternoon your time. Is that right?
Just after 2 now, actually. Yeah.
Oh, after 2.
Good.
My
Yeah.
time's wrong.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good to see you, and thank you for making time for us this afternoon. And I pushed the live stream, and then I was waiting for comments to start coming through. And I'm on my activity feed on LinkedIn. It looked like there was a little delay in the stream picking up. So if you're watching right now, for our audience, if you're watching, could you please drop a comment below and just say hi, or even better yet, let us know where in the world you're watching from. That's kind of the equivalent of the mic tap. You know, is this thing on? And you guys saying, yep, it's working. The stream is out there. It's picking up. I like to do this as a test before we get into our conversation because I want to make sure that the live stream actually is picking up. Every now and again, technology hiccups. And sometimes StreamYard doesn't take the baton from LinkedIn and push it over. And sometimes LinkedIn doesn't grab at the stream and pull it over. So if you guys could leave comments below, we would really, really appreciate it. It looks like we are going. So we've got Marissa on with us. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. We've got Deanna. We've got Christine. Awesome. So guys, continue to leave your comments in chat. And a little bit later on, we're going to have some time for Q&A as well. So Sarah, you and I have been we've been circling each other. I was talking about this in the pre-show. We got on a few minutes ago. And I said, I feel like we've been circling each other a while and engaging in each other's feeds and conversations. And I think it might have been you. I think you remembered it was like a live I did with Kevin D. Turner where you were in the chat and then I reached out to you afterwards. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think we were talking about networking in general, and I was saying how I've loved making connections with people all across the world, particularly over the pandemic, actually, and it's just been really good.
That's awesome. And for me, I don't really kind of schedule these lives too far in advance, but when I stumble upon people on LinkedIn that I feel like we have good rapport, good energy, got a good vibe to you. And I'm like, I've never really talked to Sarah. So rather than just do a virtual coffee with just Sarah and I chatting, I said, why don't we like do a LinkedIn live? We'll have a conversation. You can pick anything in the world to talk about. And Sarah, you said, let's talk about using LinkedIn to manage and develop your career. And as you know, LinkedIn is near and dear to my heart as well. So I am looking forward to the chat. Before we do that, Sarah, why don't you take a few minutes, tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Thank you. So I've been a career coach for almost 20 years now, and I've always kind of loved technology as well. So before I did this, I worked in a corporate working on the e-learning platform and managing the graduate program. So always had like that interest in helping people develop their career. So I got on LinkedIn in about, I think, 2007 and started using it like everyone just to, share your CV and that kind of thing. But gradually have just started to integrate that more and more into my business, essentially. So I just try to help people build up their profile and how to use LinkedIn effectively to network and reach people and how they can manage their career. So whether they're a job seeker or they're just looking to how to develop their career, either way.
Okay, awesome. So do you specialize in working with job seekers or do you really just work with anyone who's looking for getting help on LinkedIn?
I started out with job seekers. I started out working in outplacement, so very much people from corporate background who had taken redundancy. So kind of the getting your CV or resume ready, interview prep, all of that kind of thing. But more and more now it's moving to people who are in a career, but they're looking to do something else. So I think, again, going back to the pandemic, the whole work-life balance thing is a massive shift for lots of people now. So I'm seeing more and more people wanting to either set up a side hustle or move into something that they can just be a bit more flexible in their approach.
That's awesome. And I see that crowd too. And I call it WBL is my code, working but looking. And sometimes I refer to them as using LinkedIn in stealth mode. And it's not like a setting, it's just more of an approach to how do you use LinkedIn and kind of fly under the radar of your boss or your team member so they don't know that you're looking for a job.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
you want to increase your visibility in your personal brand.
Yeah.
And this is a really nice segue to the topic for today, Sarah, which is, using LinkedIn to manage and develop your career. And I'll invite our audience as we're going through the conversation today to continue to drop your comments here. If you're just joining us, let us know where you're in the world you're watching from. That helps us know that the live feed is working. So Sarah, let's get right into this discussion. There's folks that are watching here that probably saw the topic, and there may be even some people that are I'm gonna call them readers, not lurkers, because it sounds a little bit negative when you say lurkers, but there may be people who are watching today who aren't interacting in comments, or maybe who are watching the playback later because they do need some help using LinkedIn to manage and develop their career. So what advice do you have for them?
Okay, well, I guess the first thing is, are you looking openly, or are you looking in stealth mode, like Brenda said? So I think that kind of differentiates your technique in terms of how open you want to be. So we all know there's things like the open to work, which you can put on, which can be really effective if you are looking to work, because your network is signaled straight away that you're looking. But I guess if it's a bit more kind of under the radar, then I think lots of people are just paranoid that if they start updating their profile, their boss is automatically going to know that they're looking for work. And I don't think it needs to be like that. I think you can just start getting active on LinkedIn by being quite strategic in what you are looking at, what you're liking, what you're commenting on. So maybe you've got a particular specialism. So you start looking for content or people that write about that content, and just starting to build up that kind of engagement, which just shows people really that you're becoming an expert in your field. So you're using LinkedIn quite strategically. And I think most people I speak to kind of like that approach, because it feels a bit more like they're using it for general research, not just for jobs. And I think that's definitely how I use LinkedIn. I almost use it a bit like Google now. So if someone's got a question, my first step would be to go to LinkedIn to try and find someone that can help me on that.
Yeah.
So I think
And I go
that's
back to one of your earlier points, Sarah, because you talked about the fact that people are worried if they're going to start to work on their profile, like a notification is going to go out to their boss. And I think
yeah.
there's some confusion about that, because there was a feature once upon a time. And anytime you touch your profile, Brenda updated her photo, Brenda updated her headline, Brenda, raised her left hand during, I mean, it was like crazy how many notifications were going out.
Yeah.
But I don't think LinkedIn does that anymore. And can you tell us what notifications do go out for us now?
No, so yeah, when you're in your if you're updating your experience, etc. So you used to have to go in and physically switch that notification off, but now you can do it when you're updating your experience. You can just go in and it will say, do you want to notify your network of this change? And you can just slide the slider either way. So typically I'll say to people, if you're just making tweaks, then I would switch that off. You don't want to notify people particularly, but then when you do get a new role, then maybe you want to change that to yes. So you can do it directly from your profile now. You don't have to go to the settings. So I think that's really useful.
But I also think it only sends out notifications now. It's for if you start a new job, if you're promoted, if you start or complete education, or if you're celebrating a work anniversary. And
Yeah.
that's it. It doesn't have like I don't think, like every other area, right? Going out on
Yeah, I
the
agree. Yeah, it's much more specific now. So yeah, so I think that's it in terms of engaging with people. It's like being the strategic. And then when it comes to your profile, I think you need to think a bit about what you've enjoyed doing in the past. So my approach really is kind of reflecting back, what have you enjoyed in your work to date, and make sure that's what you're talking about on LinkedIn. So don't, just because you've managed teams before but you don't like it, don't worry about putting that on your LinkedIn profile, because you'll get found for it. So really just think about things you've enjoyed, things that you want to do again, and talk about those on your profile. Because if you put in team management and a recruiter searching for that, they're going to find you. So you really want to just think about the things that you definitely do want to do. So I kind of work with people and talk about, you can go back to school if you want to, or even before that, if you're younger, if you're a graduate or something, and just identify the kind of the highs and lows in your career. And often you will find there's some kind of theme. So for me, it's about having a really ambiguous job description. And I really like that, because I like the challenge of being able to go where I want to. Whereas other people, their highs might be they've had really clear objectives. They know exactly what it is they want to do because they like that clarity. So I think thinking about that can just help you word your profile, etc. So your about section. So you're really talking about those kind of skills, strengths, values, all of that kind of stuff, which I think people do think maybe is a bit fluffy, but I think it's really important when you're looking for a job to understand a bit about yourself and what it is you really enjoy doing. And I do get that there's a difference between some people actually really need a job and they need money quickly. But other people have got a bit more of a luxury of time. But I think if you can do some of that work, it can help you. And then as you see jobs coming up, you can kind of match what it is you have learned about yourself to those roles that are coming up, and just try to find out if it's going to be a good match for you. So that's kind of reflecting and exploring.
Let's go back for a second too. You talked about open to work, and there's, if you enable that on your profile, to the public, kind of that green
Yeah.
circle. Some people call it a scarf, comes up on your
Yeah.
profile photo. And if you enable it just for recruiters, it doesn't go out. So what's the difference between those two, and what do you recommend to folks that you're working with?
So again, I talk to people about what it is they want and if they're openly job seeking or not. And I always think it looks like you work at Starbucks. Actually, that's just shade of green.
A scarf, yeah.
So what I say is go in. You can add up to 5 job titles that you're interested in. They are pre-formatted, so you can't put in anything. But that's kind of good because it means that at least recruiters are searching for those job titles. So up to 5 job titles, up to 5 locations. Then you can add whether you're hybrid, remote, or office-based, or what you would like. And then you get the option then to say whether you want just recruiters to see this. So if you choose that option, then nothing changes on your profile. Nobody else will know, but LinkedIn recruiters will be able to run that search. And I have been told by recruiters that you get a flag against your name if you're using that, so they know you are actively searching. There's an option at the bottom that says you're immediately available, you're casually browsing. So I tend to say put immediately available because recruitment process takes a long time here in the UK. I'm sure it's the same where you are. So I think casually browsing, I would say a recruiter's less likely to approach you than if you say that you're immediately available.
But that also might indicate a candidate who is working, but looking and maybe not really aggressively seeking. And sometimes it's those, like, I don't want to say playing hard to get, but sometimes recruiters are kind of looking at that the candidate that they haven't found yet, and they might start kind of going from immediate to down to casually looking to see if there's other people they could pull up into the process.
This is true. Yeah, I think that's true. I think most of the recruiters and headhunters I've spoken to tend to go for the immediately available first, but then you do also get the others that are maybe trying to build up their network of candidates so that if that role comes up in the future. So I think if you are genuinely flexible and you're not looking right away, then fair enough, select that one. But if you're looking for a role in the next kind of 6 months or so, I would recommend going with the immediately available, I think.
Okay, good point. I like that. It's a good recommendation, and especially if you're hearing, the recruiters are kind of looking at that top setting, the immediately available, because they're going to be a little bit easier to convince those folks to do an interview, right? And to take
exactly. Yeah. And I think the other tip that I got from recruiters there is that they get told by LinkedIn recruiter if you're someone that's active on LinkedIn, and one of the measures for that is if you respond to invitations or not. So it seems completely irrelevant, but if you've got a list of invitations, it is worth clicking on either the ignore or the accept button. Doesn't matter which, but it is just showing recruiters that you are active, because they get credit. So they pay for a certain number of invites a month that they can send to potential candidates. So if they're being told by LinkedIn you're not active, then they're unlikely to send that message to you. So I think it's really important to try to start be a bit more interactive, engaged on LinkedIn, just to kind of boost you in that way.
I like that tip. And I'm curious too, Sarah, with invitations. I mean, I'm going to look at my network right now to see how many I have sitting in here in my pending. I've got 30 right now. And that's a combination of invitations from people, invitations to follow pages, events, newsletters, all the other things that are in there. What process do you recommend folks use? And since we're here today, we're talking about using LinkedIn to manage and develop your careers. So through that lens, what process do you recommend people do as they're deciding, should we just accept everyone? Should we be a little bit more, subjective to, and what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's changed a bit over the last couple of years, my view. So previously I would have said I wanted to have known or spoken to people before I connect to them. I am a bit more flexible than that now, but I do tend to look at people's profiles, look to see why I think they might be looking at me maybe. If they are a recruiter in the industry that I'm looking at, I'll look at their profile, see if we've got any mutual connections. I'll look at their activity to see if they're advertising jobs and if they seem to have a decent number of followers. So if you've got quite a small, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad if they've got a small number of connections, because everyone starts somewhere. But I think I would just look at the quality of their posts to see if they are sort of representing the kind of values that I'm interested in, the roles that I would be interested in. So that would be my advice, really, is just to check it out. And, we all make mistakes in who we connect to. So, we've talked about this offline, about connecting to people that you think are genuine, and then it turns out that they send you dodgy emails later. But
well, and we're gonna do a little detour on our stop here today, guys. We're talking about using LinkedIn to manage and develop your career, but I think it's a conversation worth having. Sarah and I, we just had an exchange yesterday, And was it yesterday that you posted about this person who would reach out to you through email? And I would encourage
Yeah.
you guys to go to Sarah's timeline and you can see the exact message that she was sent. But it was an inappropriate, it's somebody
Yeah.
who she was connected with on LinkedIn, obviously got your email from connecting with you, and then sent this romantic,
Mm.
email saying, I usually don't do this, but
I know. Yeah.
hey, maybe we could talk offline. And I reached out to Sarah, and it was funny because I was reading your message and I'm like, it sounds so familiar. There must be like this
Mm.
dating website out there that's like, here's the templates to use on women on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And we were also talking about the fact that a lot of these gentlemen, and there's ladies that do this too. I'm not going to, say it's just one gender, but mainly it's the men that we hear about. Like, is there a dating website that kind of says like, here's the templates you should use? And then does it also say, here's the rules so that you can just come very close to that line and not cross it and get away with it on
Yeah.
LinkedIn? So
That's
you and
the
I,
thing, isn't it?
you messaged, I said, can you message me that person's name? And I looked up the individual and I found the wrong person. It sounds like, but the other person I found, all he was doing is interacting with women's posts. Um,
Mm.
to me, that's a sign. And there's a
Yeah, I agree.
pattern to what the women look like, and I'll leave it at that. But I
Yeah,
think we have to look out for each other on here, don't
I
we, Sarah?
agree. Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so be careful, I guess, and try to do a bit of due diligence and research as much as you can before you connect to people. But having said that, on the flip side, that's how we're talking today, and I've made some amazing connections all around the world since COVID. Really, it's been really, really good, and I've actually ended up getting work out of it as well through random
Awesome.
posting. Australia then has given me a new client that lives 3 miles down the road here. It's really crazy, but it absolutely works.
Yeah. I think I always look at, let's give people the benefit of the doubt. Let's assume people are good
Yeah,
unless they give us reason to feel otherwise. But I think, sometimes we just have to like pay attention to our intuition. If you feel like something is off about the exchange, I got one this morning and the invitation, it almost felt like the guy sidled up to me in the bar and he said, "Hi, Brenda, how are you?" Now, at face value, there's
mm,
nothing wrong with that, but that's all that was in the invitation.
yeah,
To me, it's like I immediately get into the defensive, and I'm like, maybe he
yeah,
actually wants help with LinkedIn, and that's why he's
yeah,
reaching out to me. But the approach, it just feels a little off. So
yeah,
I think,
agree.
trusting, and sometimes it's screening people in and getting conversations started, and then you can kind of understand, and they'll reveal themselves pretty quickly through that process. But if you are using LinkedIn to manage and develop your career, I think you have to be open, don't you, Sarah, to
Yeah.
connecting with people that we don't
I
know,
think so. Yeah, I
right?
think so. Definitely. Yeah, yeah. I think going back to the open to work, the other option is you can let everyone in your network know where you do have the green scarf or the Starbucks banner, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I think it can be good because it signifies to your network that you're looking for work. It adds the information at the bottom of the contact card bit at the top of your profile, so it will show people the roles you're looking for, show you where the physical locations that you're looking for. So you're kind of right there in people's faces, and obviously then every time you like or you engage, people see that green banner, so they will be reminded you're looking for work. So I think that's good, although then a lot of people then say, well, I think maybe it makes me look desperate. So I think it is very much a personal thing. I think it can be good. The other thing that it does do when you set that up is it automatically generates like a template posts for you. So it will have the hashtags of open to work. It will say what you're looking for. So you can go in and tailor that, and then you can post that. And I've heard, and I don't know if it's true, that I've heard that this actually goes out to all of your connections. So I'm not sure if that's
Oh,
true because we know
interesting.
that doesn't happen normally with posts, but I've
Okay.
been told that does happen. So I guess what you could do potentially is you could do that post, then you could
That's
go
good.
back in, take the banner off, go
So
back to
that's, I
recruiting
mean, that's
your
a great
email.
technique, Sarah. I hadn't heard about that, but
Yeah,
LinkedIn changes things all the time. It doesn't tell us,
yeah,
and we discover it by observing it, and sometimes by
yeah,
our network connections reaching out and saying, "Hey, this happened. Have you noticed it before?" And then we kind of test
yeah,
it, and we're like, "Yeah, that did
yeah.
happen." So if there's anyone that's watching right now, I'll put a challenge out to the viewership,
Mm,
Sarah. If there's anyone that's watching right now that is actively in between successes,
yeah,
unemployed, in career transition,
yeah.
if you haven't enabled the open to work on your profile yet, could you enable it? Tell us, does that notification go out, and did it seem like it went out to a large number of people? I
Yeah.
don't know if there's a way. How would we know if it went out to our full network, Sarah? Is
Yeah,
just
I
by
don't
level
know.
of
That's it. I was thinking about maybe trying to do some experiment and asking people to just like it or something, but
Okay.
I know people don't even do that. So I don't really know how you could
Well, there was an
do
email I got from LinkedIn late last week, and it was through the LinkedIn blog, and it's like product updates and enhancements and things like that. And there was a mention in there that said that they are now starting to penalize posts where And it made it sound like it was the people who are not using LinkedIn the right way. They're saying, it's almost like clickbait, like go in and like
Yeah.
my post and, give it a like or a reaction. So
Mm.
my interpretation of
Yeah.
that was, don't tell people to like your post, because if
Yeah.
you do, you'll be penalized. Did
Yeah.
you see that, or any thoughts
I
on
didn't
that?
see that one actually, no, but I'm not surprised actually, because I guess that is sort of starting to get towards a pod type situation, isn't it? If you're
Yeah. Well,
encouraging
I don't know.
people
I mean,
to.
but what if you share something? I mean, you shared a great story yesterday, and if you
Mm,
said, "Has this happened to you?" If so, add a comment
yeah,
below her. So
yeah,
keep
that's
this
true. Where's
post
the
like to
line?
spread the word.
Mm,
I don't think it's clickbait. I mean, I think sometimes people don't know that it actually helps you and them to
yeah,
engage with the post, not just to read it, but to actually
yeah,
take action. So I think sometimes having that call to action in there, like this post if you agree, or add a comment
yeah.
below, like I feel like it's helping. And it's not, I understand what you're coming from, the pod activity. And for
Mm,
people, there might be some people watching who are like, pods, what's that? Sarah, tell
yeah.
us what's a pod and why are they good or bad?
So my understanding of the pods, I've not been in one,
Yeah.
obviously, is that it's basically a group of people that set up and they will commit to liking and commenting on each other's posts. So you will see the same names popping up on an
Mhm.
individual's post all the time, and it will be kind of mutual. So and LinkedIn doesn't like or want that. So I think that's kind of the definition of a pod, really.
And I think they're mostly paid too, like, you have to pay to
Yeah,
play,
yeah.
and my concern with that is if you remove the pod, you're gonna lose engagement, you're gonna kinda go off a cliff of
Mm,
engagement, like, it's
yeah,
not gonna be sustainable. And even
yeah,
if you look at the comments, like you said, it's the same people commenting all the time, but it's also, the comments aren't even substantial, they almost look like they're automated, like they pull from a
yeah.
list of 7 different
Great.
comments,
So, yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
did write a post a couple of weeks ago about why you should engage on LinkedIn. So there was a post
Yeah.
that said, why you should like, why you should comment, and the difference
Oh,
between the like emojis and things like that. And I think if you are liking things, it is quite useful to use those different emojis, because I think it kind of tells the author of the post that you've thought about it a little bit more. You're not just clicking on the blue thumb. You are, you're curious about it, or it's insightful or whatever.
mhm.
And it just helps to raise your profile. And again, going back to that strategic thing that I was talking about at the beginning, if you are like and engaging on comments to do with your industry or the type of role that you want, then people are just seeing you commenting on the same kind of things all the time. So it's building that picture up in their mind of you as a professional. So I think it's really quite important to start doing that kind of engagement on other people's posts.
I like that. So we're talking today about, using LinkedIn to manage and develop your career. And Sarah's giving us some really great advice. We talked about profile, we talked about invitations. I'm curious, so in terms of contents, Sarah, what advice do you have for people for how do I find the right type of content to engage with in my homepage feed, or the right profiles? What's your advice to
Yeah.
that?
So if we do profiles first, so if you know the type of job that you're going for, so kind of relatively easy, what you can do then is use a search on LinkedIn. So just clicking in the search bar at the top. And so let's say project manager you're interested in. If you click in the search bar and use quote marks and type in project manager and hit return, and the reason for that then is then LinkedIn will find both of those words together, not separately within the post or whatever. Then when the filters come up, if you hit on people, that will then give you a list of all of the people on LinkedIn who have project manager somewhere in their profile. So that's going to give you thousands and thousands, if not millions of hits. So I would then go in and just start to drill down on those filters. So maybe pick your first degree and your secondary degree connection, so people that you're already connected to, and then their first degree connection. So you're just starting to get a wider network, but everyone in there you've got at least one person in common with. You
I like
can then filter by location, you can filter by sector. And then once you're happy with that, you will get a kind of a shorter list. So then I suggest to people, just start looking at people's profiles then. So you can then see the people that are doing the kind of role that you want to do already, look at their career history, how have they got there? Are they interactive? So you could then look at their activity section and start engaging on their content. So you're showing them that you're interested in them, you're interested in that career. If you're leaving really good comments, then hopefully you will get some conversation coming back. And then
Mhm.
eventually you could follow them, or you could follow them straight away, obviously. And then maybe you might connect with them at some point, or they might even send you a connection request if you've been engaging on their content.
I love
And
that.
that, there's a whole idea of informational interviews. You could approach them and ask them if they'd be prepared to spend 10-15 minutes talking to you about how they got into the role that they are. So I would never advise that someone actually ask someone for a job, but just some kind of hints and tips. Have you got any contacts that might be able to help me, point me in the right direction of how to get into your company, that kind of thing.
Sarah, you and I are like so much alike because I'm the same way. I feel like if you're going to reach out to a person, go with an indirect ask. Like, would you have 10 to 15 minutes for information? I'm not asking for a job. I just want to
Mm,
ask you some questions about getting into the path. I think that you and I share a lot of that. And I think there's an etiquette to this. You don't want to
yeah.
be presumptive and assume that the person has time for you because maybe they're busy.
Mm,
Um, but I also love the fact that you're talking about looking at people that are in the job title you're looking to be in and engaging with their activity on LinkedIn. You said
yeah.
something, you said leaving a thoughtful comment. And I often get this question, like, what's a thoughtful comment? How do I come up with what to
Mm,
say? And I kind of feel like it's a little bit second nature, but what do you think,
mm.
Sarah? What's a good thoughtful comment, or what's a bad comment if you have, a comparison of that?
So I think, if you, so I guess talking about the post yesterday, which was about inappropriate behavior on LinkedIn, you could just empathize with the person. You could say, I'm sorry to hear you've been through that, and what would you suggest people do in that situation? Or you could say, something similar has happened to me. This is what I did. So kind of sharing your experience. And if it's more work-based, then you could just say, that was a really interesting article. I particularly like this bit. So pick something out from the article, or maybe something that's a bit further down that not everyone will have read. So it just shows then that you have actually read the article and you've understood what they're saying, and you're either agreeing or maybe you're even disagreeing with them. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I think sometimes quite a good debate's quite useful. You can go in and give your view. You may then get people challenging you, but generally they're quite professional debates, and that's how you learn, really, isn't it? So I think that's what my advice would be, is to make sure you've read what they're saying and give some kind of good comment back that
I
sparks
love that.
conversation.
I don't think it's difficult. I don't think we're really, we're just trying to talk human being to human being, and you're just trying
Yeah,
to demonstrate to them that you read what they just said.
yeah.
And I mean, sometimes I look at the other comments before commenting. More often than not, Sarah, I just respond from what does that make me feel? How is my response to it? And I loved your approach of, if you disagree, it's perfectly fine to comment and say,
Mm,
have you thought about this point of view? But I
yeah,
think respect is key in that. I've seen some people that just attack the person because they
yeah,
don't agree
agree.
with their point of view.
Yeah.
How do you respond? I mean, when you get those comments that are very negative or
I know.
attacking?
Well, I think of one that springs to mind straight away. So it was in a group chat, and I'd commented about something. No, I'd written a post actually about looking for work, and this lady came on saying, what do you know, you've never been unemployed? And I'm like, firstly, you don't know that.
How would she know that?
I know, it's so bizarre.
I mean,
I know. But she
right?
was really quite aggressive,
Oh,
and not everyone's got the luxury, and absolutely, and I always say that, like I said at the beginning,
yeah.
I know some people just need to get a job quickly, and it doesn't matter what it is, because they need the finances, and that's perfectly fine. That's what happens, and I've been in that situation before. So
Yeah.
but then she started picking me up on my grammar and saying, you can't even spell. And so I just said, well,
Oh,
actually,
really? So she
I
started going down there
I'm
then, okay.
English and you're American, and there is a language difference. So actually, what I've written is
Oh,
correct
was
in
she
English.
calling out your favorite,
Yeah,
OUR, like that kind of
yeah,
thing?
exactly. Yeah. So,
Oh,
but then lots of people kind of jumped on my side essentially and just started saying to her, what right have you got to say this? You don't know anything about this person, and maybe
yeah.
you should check your facts before you comment. So,
Ooh. And I think this is coming back to, the conversation we're talking about using LinkedIn to manage and develop your career. I think every interaction you have with other people on LinkedIn is a point of reflection about the
mm,
brand that you built for yourself.
absolutely.
It's not
Yeah.
just about defending yourself to these people that may be right or wrong, but it's like, what do you look like to the rest of the world, right? Like your brand is
Yeah.
being developed through those responses as
Yeah,
well.
I don't think people realize that you can pretty much look at anything that anyone says on LinkedIn. If you go to their all activity section, you can see what they've liked, you can see what
Oh
they've
yeah.
commented on. So
Mhm.
potentially employers are doing that. So again, going back to the strategy thing, if you're making sure, and I'm not saying don't ever comment on anything personally, but if the
Yeah.
majority of your stuff is to do with your work and your views, you are building up that expertise. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, I love it. Well, this is such great conversation, Sarah. I want to shift gears a little bit, and I put a ticker up on screen right now to invite our audience. If you're watching, I would love it if you have any thoughts on what we've been talking about today, or if you have any questions for Sarah, please drop them into comments right now. And there is about a 30-second delay from the time I say, hey, drop in your comments until the time that we start to see them on screen. So I'm vamping a little bit, and I've had the ticker running for a little bit in here. But let's see what we have on here. So here's a question. Great question, actually, from Retha, and thank you so much for asking this, Retha. Where do we find invitations, Sarah? I mean, you and I were like, we know exactly where, but there might be people who are fairly new on the platform. Where do they find their invitations?
Yeah, so if you look along the top, you'll see the kind of little small icons, and there's one that says My Network. If you click on that, you'll see on the right-hand side a list of invitations. So I guess depending on your settings, you probably would normally get notified of a new invitation. But if not, if you go there, you'll see any that you've got outstanding.
I love, and actually, Retha, thank you for asking that too, because for Sarah and I, we're looking at these things all the time. We don't really think about the fact it doesn't say invitations. It says My Network. And you might not think like that's where you look for invitations, because My Network, it sounds like it's already the people that you're already connected with, but that's actually the page where you get to a list of your invitations. So thank you for offering that. We appreciate these questions. So don't be shy, and if you feel a little bit nervous about asking a question, here's a technique. You can say, I was talking to my coworker and he was wondering where you find invitations. What do I tell him? So there's a technique on here. Jeff Young. Do you know Jeff yet, Sarah, through the LinkedIn?
Yes. Yeah. Jeff's been on my live before. Yeah. We've had great.
I feel like all of the nice LinkedIn trainers and coaches, we all are kind of a part of a, kumbaya community. We're all like, lovers and supporters of each other. Jeff says, as you start your job search process, he recommends profile people and participate. What do you ladies think of the sequence? So what do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, I think that's good. It's a good model. So you're firstly looking to build up your profile. So going back to what I said at the beginning, thinking about what it is you really want to do, make sure that's represented, because you want to be found for what it is you're an expert in, really. And then look for people. So build up your network with people from all walks of your life. And I think that's the other thing. People only connect to people they've worked with. But think about, if you went to university friends, if you're a parent, think of the other school mums and dads that you see in the playground, because I've definitely got work that way before. So just having this kind of conversation with people that you wouldn't necessarily think of. So building your network and just being a bit brave and following people that you are out of your network. And then participate, like Jeff said, so kind of the engaging, so making sure you're engaging with your network, and then with posts as well. So going back to your other question, Brenda, we talked about looking for people that have that job title or that particular topic, but you can then also search for posts as well. So instead of clicking on the people filter, click on posts, and then you will see all of the posts that have those words in. So that's a really good way, if you've got a particular topic, to find people and content that you can then engage with.
You could probably find job postings in there too. Like if I was looking for a project manager job, I could click on search, put in search in the top, project manager, and then when the search results come up, click on posts, and then any posts that have the word project manager would appear in there, right?
They do, and it's surprising how many people use posts to advertise jobs rather than the job search function. So definitely do that.
Yeah, it's a way of getting people that maybe aren't clicking on the jobs tab, that passive job seeker audience, or the folks that might be working but casually looking, or the using LinkedIn in stealth mode and getting those into the homepage. So brilliant technique there. It's kind of like sometimes when we talk about these things, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot you could do that too. But it's helpful, I think, for others that are listening in on here. All right, let's see what else we have in here. Sue Griffin. Hey Sue, how are you? Sue's hopping a little late. She says, glad to hear the discussion on whether LinkedIn is penalizing a post if you put like this post CTA in the post. And I might test this out, Sarah. I might try for a week and just every day, I don't know, put something like this. I always encourage people to use a call to action in my posts when I'm training people. What about do you encourage people to use a call to action as well? Or what are your thoughts there?
I think more often I'm trying to get people to engage with other people's posts than write their own, because I think most of the people I work with are not active at all on LinkedIn. So they've got a profile because as far as they're concerned, they've set up a profile because they're looking for a job, and they don't necessarily understand the importance of engaging initially. But I always say, I think you'll reach a wider audience by commenting on other people's posts to start with, because those people are likely to have an audience already. So then those people are seeing you comment, they might click on your profile, and then kind of work towards writing a post. But then once you do that, then yes, I do think call to action is good. So whether it's, have you got an experience like this, or something like that, I think is good.
Right. Encouraging that engagement. I'm curious too. Do you know John Asperian? I feel like you probably do,
Yes, yeah,
right?
I'm in his
So
group as well, yeah.
I mean, are you in the Espresso Plus?
I am, yeah,
I
and
am.
Friday shout out person as well, so.
Yeah, and I just joined Espresso Plus, and I haven't gotten as active inside the group yet, but I'm a big supporter of John, and he does a lot of experience, and I'm going to give him a little shout out right now.
Yeah.
He does a lot of experiments rather on posts on LinkedIn.
Mm.
So I'm curious if this is something he has tried yet, like, engaging or posting for a week and encouraging people outright to engage with
Yeah,
the post, giving them instructions
yeah.
versus not doing that. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna see what
Mm.
happens, and I'm not gonna change anything other than the call to action, just to
Yeah,
see what type of
see what happens, yeah.
but I know we're not trying to game the system. We're not trying to, like, I'm just really trying to get people to interact, and I feel like a lot of times people don't know that they should interact. So
Yeah,
some of
agree.
those instructions can help out. Sue also had a comment, and I love this as a thought. When you see an article, like actually pulling a sentence or paragraph that says this really spoke to me, and like copying
Mm.
that, putting that, and then putting in quotation marks too. So it's like you're not saying it, but you said this is what I liked for that. What do you think about that, Sarah?
I think it's totally worth it, and I think you can do that with, lots of people that you see on LinkedIn that are kind of in the target area that you want to work with. And you can also do it with people that you think are way out of your reach. So I think last month I saw an article that Daniel Roth from LinkedIn had written about newsletters, and I put a comment on, and then he replied to that and said, just subscribe to your newsletter. And I was like, really excited. So I think you can, and then obviously because he comments on your post, you get lots of people looking at you. So it's really worth thinking about that, and kind of quoting something or just adding something there that just shows a bit of value.
That's very good. I like it. And then related to that, Polly, thanks for watching today, Polly. Polly says, when commenting, I like to use the name of the author, i.e. Sarah Burgess. Thoughts on tagging the author in this way. So I'm not sure if she's referring to, like, in the comments tagging the person again, or maybe posting and tagging the person. Your interpretation of that, Sarah.
Yeah, I think either way I'm happy with that. I think if it's for a genuine reason, so you like the post and tag, I think it's useful for you to tag me in a comment because I will more likely see the notification. So that will be good. And then I always reply to everyone that comments on any of my posts. And I think if you are sharing a post from someone, or maybe you're just saying, oh, I just heard Sarah Burgess say this. So I have had that a couple of times at kind of talks that I might have done. Someone might write a post and tag me in it. And obviously I really like that. So I will then thank them for taking the time to tag me. I think it's different if it's maybe someone that you're just kind of spamming them. So it's not someone you know. And I've had that as well, where people just write a post and then tag a load of people, and I think that's quite bad practice. But
I've got a blog I wrote. It's like, thanks for, I think it's about spam tags. It's like, thanks for tagging me in your post. It has nothing to do with me. And I mean, originally I was like removing myself from the tag. Now what I do is when I get spam tagged, I put a comment in and I'll say, thanks for tagging me in. Your network may be interested in following me here on LinkedIn, and here's my LinkedIn strategy page. And hey, I have a book, and here's my newsletter link. And I'm like spamming.
That's a really great idea.
Like, if you're gonna tag me in, I'm gonna put a bunch of stuff. And they might go, why did she do that? Well, why did you tag me? If we're gonna do this, let's go all in on it, right?
Yeah.
I see another one on here, and I love this, John, because I was thinking when Sarah said this earlier, John saying redundancy. What's the American equivalent of redundancy? And what you're referring to there, Sarah, was when your position is being eliminated by a company, you're being laid off.
That's right. Right?
Yeah. So is the term your position is redundant, or what's the term that we're use it in a sentence? Help me understand.
So when I took redundancy from my role, you kind of get called into a room, you get told that you're going to have to apply for your position, it's at risk, and then you get like a consultation period, and then they will say, okay, you've not made the grade or whatever it is, and your role is now redundant. So they're very, very careful to say it's your role that's redundant, although it is actually you, but it's like the organization doesn't need this role anymore. So then you leave with a notice period and a payout generally.
That's interesting because like redundant to me, it's like I use the expression sometimes when when I see people on LinkedIn on their profile and they have their headshot photo and then in their background image they have another headshot photo. And I'll say it's kind of like the Department of Redundancy department, like redundant meaning you've repeated it, you don't need to have it in there twice. So it's more
Yeah.
I think of the
So,
word as like repetitive or not
right.
needed. But I have never I guess I've heard it, but I haven't. John,
Yeah.
thank you for calling attention because I've not really placed it within the category of being let go or downsized or laid off or whatever
Yeah.
within
So I
organizations.
guess it's what you said there, it's not no longer needed. So your
No longer
role is
needed.
no longer needed within the
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Rita has a question, but we're kind of getting towards the end of our time here, so this might be a nice segue to kind of wrap up our conversation here today, Sarah. And I know that you help people with LinkedIn profiles. So, first of all, I'm going to pull up your LinkedIn profile up on screen since we're talking about
Thank
profiles,
you.
and I'll ask: are you open to connecting with people on LinkedIn, or what's your philosophy there?
Yeah, I am. So I have got mine because I've got creator mode on. It does come up to say, and I think the message is a little bit off-putting actually because it says Sarah prefers to be followed, and
Right. No,
that
you
I
don't. We
mean,
didn't say that, right?
we never said that. I mean, it's quite nice, and I think it does give people then the option. But you can click on follow, and I do see who follows me, so I will tend to look at the people that followed me,
Okay.
and but if you don't want to do that, you can then click on more and you can then click on request to connect. And I think it then comes up with another message saying, are you sure you want to do this? So I think it really tries to
And
put
it's, are
you
you
off.
sure? Sarah
Yeah,
really said she didn't
I
want
know.
to. Are you
So
sure?
I really am open. I mean, I would really like it if you put a message on to say why you want to connect. Say, I saw
Right.
you on Brenda's show, something like that would be great. And I know sometimes on the mobile, it's not that obvious because you have to click on the little three dots, I think, to click to personalize the invite. So if you hit on invite on the mobile, it comes straight through pretty much straight away. So just send a message if you can to say
And
why
I'm going
you
to
want
put
to
this
connect.
in comments right now for folks, just to remind them if you want to connect with Sarah, to click on the three dots if you're on mobile or the more button on the desktop and then
Mm.
choose personalize an invite and mention, that you watch Sarah on today's show. And if that's the case and, they said, hey, I liked the show. I saw some great things from you. You're more likely to accept that invitation because you know why they're coming to you, right? That's
Yeah,
the
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
awesome. And any final comments for us too on, using LinkedIn to manage and develop your career?
I think just spend time looking at other people's profiles. I think that's really useful. If you're worried about people knowing that you've looked at their profiles, you could put yourself in private mode first, and then they won't know. And what I tend to say to people is maybe when you're not happy with your profile, put yourself in private mode, do your research,
Mhm.
update your profile, but then put yourself back in public mode because actually you want people to know you've looked at their profile because you want them to look at yours back because the more hits you get on your page, I think the more likely you are to be found in searches by recruiters. So you want people looking backwards and forwards between your profile. So I'd say that, do your research in private if you want to, but then make it open again.
That's awesome. And going back to the question that we got from Rita, she wants to learn more about profiles. So, Sarah, for
Yeah.
people that watched you on the show today that really enjoyed learning from you, remind us, how can we reach out to you if we're interested in your help with our LinkedIn profile or activity?
So if you just direct message me on LinkedIn, that's the best way. I have got a website as well, so more than happy to share that
Is
if you
this
want
is this
to.
your
But
website? Did I find the
that
right one?
is, yes, it is. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah.
And
So
I'm gonna pull it up on screen real quick for folks too. So this is the website here. And then where would we go from here? Contact us. Actually, it's right.
if you go to the career coaching,
Mhm. I'm
which
gonna
is
make
the
it a little bit
second
larger
tab,
here.
and then it goes through. So I do kind of traditional career coaching, if you like. So talking a bit about understanding yourself, etc., and then so reflecting, exploring, visioning, taking action, and then as you go down, you'll see that there are their CV services and LinkedIn services as well. So
Awesome. Well, that's great to know, Sarah. Thank you so much.
thank
This was
you.
such a great conversation. I feel like I got to know you a little bit more
Yeah, it's really
today,
good. Thank you.
beyond the kind of commenting back and forth, and sometimes we'll
Yeah,
mess each other back and forth, but it was really good to get to know you. I love your energy. I love your vibe, and
thank you.
always here to support you and support each other. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. It's been lovely and massive honor to be invited on. So thank you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, thank you. I want to thank Sarah and also everyone else for watching us here today. Hey, and if you enjoyed this conversation, did you enjoy this conversation? I'm sure you did. If you did enjoy this conversation, I want to ask you for a favor, and that's this. As soon as the video's done, go back to my activity feed on LinkedIn and you'll find the video there. Click the share button, share the video along. And if you haven't posted on LinkedIn this week, this month, this year, it's a great way of getting some content out there, and maybe tag Sarah in the post when you do so. Tell people something that you learned by watching the video, or maybe just tell them why they should watch the video. You never know who you can help in your network when you're sharing these things along. And when you tag Sarah, she'll get a notification, and it also goes out to Sarah's own page feed. So you get the benefit of some additional reach on there. With that said, I want to thank everyone for watching here today. If you didn't leave a comment, you can still leave a comment watching this in playback, and I'll make sure to share the link with Sarah so she can come back and see your comments later. I know we tend to get people watching a little bit, in the morning here in the US, and then throughout the day, we'll get some additional folks watching. We will monitor for your comments over the next couple of days as well. With that said, thank you again, Sarah, for joining me, and thank our audience for attending. Everybody stay safe and stay healthy, and we will see you all on LinkedIn. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.